Hello, NINC friends. We're happy today to welcome Damon Courtney, a longtime NINC favorite, who will be speaking at the beach in 2025. Thank you so much for joining us today, Damon. The NINC conference team is super excited that you're going to be presenting this September, and we are really, really glad to share that excitement with everyone else. So, would you, in case there's anybody who doesn't know you, I can't imagine, but tell us a little bit about yourself, about your business, and how how it is relatable to NINC.
So I am Damon Courtney. I'm the creator and CEO of BookFunnel, and we opened our doors in 2015, and 2017 was our first NINC, and we have not missed a year except for COVID when we all kind of missed a year. But otherwise, we have been a sponsor at NINC ever since 2017. So BookFunnel, I created BookFunnel because I needed what it did. I had published a fantasy trilogy. I had a reader magnet, which we didn't call them that back then. I had a novella, and I wanted to give it out to readers and put it out into the world to help build my mailing list. And I looked around, and it didn't exist. People were just sort of emailing files around, and it was a really kind of clunky system. And I thought, I can do that better. I have been wrong about several things in my life that I thought I could do better as an engineer because I always think that I can make something better. But this one I actually turned out to be right. The we call it the dark days. In the dark days of self-publishing, when you would try to email like a PDF to somebody or an EPUB, and they were like, "How do I get it to my Kindle?" And you were responsible for doing all the tech support for your readers. And I thought, oh, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so that was why I built BookFunnel. And these days now, I mean, we really will in October. So just a month after we're at NINC this year, we'll pass 10 years in business, and we have a much bigger team now. We're still very small. I mean, as companies go, we like to keep it really small. We like to be really agile, and we like to see what's going on in the world of indie publishing and make sure that, like the Gretzky quote, always skating to where the puck is going to be, so that if, we launched audiobook delivery, which was a big, big departure for us because ebooks are like this big, super tiny, and audiobooks can be, hundreds of chapters and gigabytes of files. And so that was a big change for us, but we saw where the industry was going. Our authors were asking us, hey, when's BookFunnel going to do audiobooks? And we'd be like, that's almost an entirely other company. And they're like, yeah, but when are you going to do it? And so eventually we did it because that's where authors were going. And we try to make sure that we're always looking into the future so that, we announced the first feature when we came to NINC in 2017. We announced direct sales delivery, which in 2017 was like 5 people were using it, right? And then here comes sort of COVID in 2020, 2021, and everybody gets super scared and starts realizing like, maybe as an indie author, I need to take a little bit more control of my destiny, which for a lot of indies is why they became indie in the first place. And so by 2022, direct sales really started to take off. And now here we are in 2025. And, if you've got a decent backlist, chances are good you're probably already looking at how you might sell that direct, even if it's just paperbacks. But now, because BookFunnel can do ebooks and audiobooks and just handle all that seamlessly, you really can build that out. So we look super prescient, like we were looking at a crystal ball, like direct sales is going to be the future of everything. No, we were just building it because our authors were asking for it, and we thought, oh, that's something cool. We could do that. That's something we could build. So we went off and built it. We were just about 6 years early, but that's okay because then when people showed up and wanted to do direct sales, it's like, oh, BookFunnel already does this. Sweet. And then just like we're able to jump right in and start building their stores.
Which is awesome. And when you said 10 years, I mentioned before we went on that I felt like it had been longer than that. But yeah, I don't like to think about a indie world without BookFunnel. So what can attendees expect from your presentation this year, which is tentatively entitled Connect with Readers Standing Out in a World of AI?
So what we are seeing, I try to look at what this is all. When you come and listen to one of my talks, I'm very quick to point out I have not published a book since 2014, right? So I am a writer in the sense that I love writing, but I haven't written anything in quite a long time, and that's because I'm busy writing BookFunnel all the time. But what when I get up and I give a presentation, what I am giving is what we are seeing at BookFunnel. We have many tens of thousands of authors that are using our service, and we're always looking at what are they doing, what are they trying to do into the future, and what are the trends, right? So we talk about like selling direct is one of those big things. And so as the AI bugbear, comes up more and more, and admittedly, it's for some people it's a great tool, and for other people it's a very scary thing, right? But what we are seeing more and more is authors making more of an effort to connect with their readers and create real connections, because I feel like that's really what being an author has always been. You have the Stephen Kings and the Nora Roberts and of the world, who, like, Stephen King's not going to email you back, right? He's probably not. Maybe he will. I don't know. He seems like a pretty cool dude, but chances are good if you dropped him an email and told him you liked your latest book, he's not going to be like, thanks for reading, I appreciate it. But as indie authors, this is something that we have the power to do, because you do have a smaller audience, and I'm sure we'd all love to have Stephen King's audience, right? We'd love to have him, and his money. But as an indie author with a smaller audience, you are able to create those connections in ways that somebody who is larger may not be able to. And what that buys you is real people and real connections. And once you make that connection, you can make a reader for life, right? So we have seen authors, and everybody has. At BookFunnel, we talk a lot about bandwidth, right? Which is a technical term, but it's like, if you got this much bandwidth, then that's how much you have to dedicate to things. So you always need to be writing books. Like, as a writer, that's your core job. But then outside of that writing time, you have a million things you could be spending your time on, and only a narrow bandwidth of things that you can spend your time on. And so, to me, and what we're seeing from authors with things like selling direct, we see more authors that are doing things in person. So showing up at conferences, showing up at places, and doing in-person events. And that's not for everybody, right? Not everybody wants to schlep a bunch of books over to a conference. But what you get from that is personal connection. The more
Mhm.
people that you meet, the more people that you talk to, when that reader emails you and says, "Hey, I read your first book and I really liked it," and they get a reply, and you're like, "Oh my, I'm so glad that you like my book. It's so exciting. I can't wait for you to read the second book and the third book. What was your favorite character?" Whatever, right? Creating all those kinds of connections. And what that does is that each little touch like that moves that reader down the path of becoming eventually a super fan of you as an author, which means that they're going to buy everything that you write and publish till the day you stop writing and publishing, right? I've been a reader my whole life. Well, not quite my whole life. Around the age of 14, I really got into it. But I still read every single night, and I can start. I won't. But if you asked me, I can immediately name off at least half a dozen authors whom I buy every book they publish, no matter what it is. Brandon Sanderson, I backed his Kickstarters. Like, that's a great example of a guy who, sure, he's this level, right? And again, we'd all love to have Brandon's money. But even at this level, he built that over a career of showing up at conferences, showing up at tables, signing, talking to me. You won't meet a single person who's met Brandon Sanders who's like, that guy's a jerk. Like, no, everybody says he's the super nicest guy in the world, right? And that's because when they meet him, he makes those connections with them. And because he's made those connections, he has a really big fan base. So when he showed up on Kickstarter and was like, "Hey, I've got 4 books. I'm not going to tell you what the titles are. I'm not going to tell you what they're about, but if you give me money, you can have them." And people were like, "Shut up and take my money." Like, isn't that the kind of fan that we would all want to have? Is the
It is.
people who are just like, "I don't even know what you're writing and I don't care. Please take my money. I just want to read your next book."
Yeah, Bill, we all want that. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good point. So, um, we have said that you're a regular NINC attendee. What is your favorite part of the conference?
In the last couple of years, it's really been the Mosh, which, of course, I'm a sponsor, and so it's great because One of the problems that so as a sponsor, I'm one person and I'm very tall, so it's easy for me to stand out in a crowd of people. So if you're looking for me at NINC, it's pretty easy to find me. I always say I'm the tall, bald guy that's not Mark Lefebvre. So if you look around and you can spot me pretty easily, but I'm still everybody's going in and doing the talks, and that's a lot of what you're there for, right? You're there to learn, you're there to educate yourself on some of these new topics. But I will say, like as an attendee, you should also do as much of the networking as you can. That is the true value of conferences that I've gone to. And so as a sponsor, I can stand around in a room and you might know who I am before the Mosh, which really has only been the last few years. Again, we've been attending NINC since 2017. I would regularly, on like the last day, somebody would come up to me and go, "I didn't know you were the book funnel guy. I have a question for you." And that's because they just didn't know who I was. And so what I love about the Mosh, which for those of you who are not in the know, is the Meet Our Sponsors Happy Hour, MOSHH. What it is like I have a table, and I will tell you that I'm not usually fond of tables and just standing around. I like to go around and mingle and talk with people. As you can see, I use my hands. I'm very animated. I talk a lot. But I like being at the Mosh. Everybody goes around and really meets all of the sponsors. You get a little passport and you get a little stamp and you get entered in a raffle to win things, and it's fantastic. I love that because some people just come up and literally just like stick the thing in my face and I give them their little stamp and I was like, "Thanks for coming by." And then other people stop and talk. And I will tell you, a lot of them are just like, "Hey, I already use BookFunnel. I've had it for years. I just want to tell you, I love you guys. Gonna get a stamp." Right. But it's so gratifying to have those people that would not come up to me in the lobby and just say, "Hey, I just want to say I love BookFunnel." Like they won't do that, right? We're all writers, and so lots of introverts. But when they have to come to my table because they want the stamp and they want to go in the raffle, they will. They'll just say, "Hey, it's like I don't need the pitch. I love BookFunnel. I've used it for years." It's so gratifying to hear that. So it's basically like 2 hours of me standing behind a table and people coming up and telling me how much they love me, which you know,
Right?
I'm a pretty humble guy. I'm not usually like it's a lot of, "Oh, thank you so much. I so appreciate that." But at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, it feels good.
Yeah, of course, and that's why we did it. That's exactly why we did it. That's
Yeah.
that's the whole reason. Okay, well, we have to wrap up, but I do want to ask before we go, where can people, if somebody really doesn't know who you are, where can they find out more about Damon Courtney before?
Um, the best place is bookfunnel.com because that's our website. We try not to be too tricky about it. You could go and search for my name on Amazon and find my 3 books that were published 10 years ago and more. Um, they're pretty good. Like they're not terrible. My marketing was terrible, and so at the time, that's why I started BookFunnel was because they were like, "Don't do what I did, which was write 3 books and then go, how do I market these books?" You probably want to like mix the marketing in from the beginning and make it a part of the whole process. But yeah, bookfunnel.com is the best place to find us. Our support team is incredible. Even if you're not a BookFunnel user, if you have any questions about what we do, or even just like, "What is BookFunnel? How could I use it?" Our team is there 365 days a year to answer any of your questions.
They're awesome.
That's amazing. And yes, Damon talks with his hands. And before we started the recording, Tandra and I were talking scheduling wise. We have to be careful not to schedule Damon's session in the middle room where there's air walls on either side because there's so much laughter during the presentation. I had my microphone off during this interview just so you couldn't hear me cackling over Damon's talking. But we're so excited for you to join us. And for anybody who doesn't know, we're talking about the Novelist Inc. conference. It's September 17th through the 20th, 2025. It's in St. Pete Beach, Florida at the Tradewinds Resort. We do it there every year. This is an annual conference. So if you are an author and you are not yet a NINC member, please go to NINC.com, NINC.com, and see if you qualify for membership. This is the premier organization for professional novelists. We throw an amazing conference. We bring in great speakers, but then we also have that high level networking and the opportunity to meet with a lot of vendors and service providers. So it's definitely the conference you want to come to if you only pick one per year. So Damon, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for supporting NINC, but like coming and teaching every year, and we just love you. And And we can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you
See
so
you
much for
soon.
having me.